What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Weekly Dose of Dano TV with your host here, Dano, giving you the best content you're going to find on the internet. And today, I hope you are ready to be inspired to learn more about karma and to learn more about the tools that we need in order to deal with the trials and tribulations in our lives. Because we are here with Paul Grima, who is an expert and has turned himself in a 180-degree way. Like, he started in such a bad spot, as he told me before, and as you will find out. And now he is on his way and has achieved peace, bliss, and happiness all the way. So, Paul, what do you have to say to the positivity posse before we get started?
Let me see. Henry Ford had a saying: "Those who believe they can't and those who believe they can are both right."
I love that. I love that so much. And actually, Lou right here, he says, "Let's go." But he also told
Let's go, Lou.
Yeah, he also taught me about that one. And I think I heard it a little bit differently. The one that I heard was, whether you think you can or you can't, either way, you're right. And
Yep.
I love it. It's the same principle. And
Right.
that's just a little taste for you guys before we get started today. So whatever you got to do, please raise your vibrations, because it's time for another episode of Weekly Dose of Dano TV. Let's get it, everybody. To another episode. Thank you so much for being here. If you're watching live or on the replay, we have so much to cover in such a short amount of time, because Paul's story is absolutely incredible. And when I heard some of the things that he had to overcome in his life, it really is a testament. And he's the epitome, the type of person that we want here on Weekly Dose of Dano TV, to learn about what it takes to overcome our challenges. But before Paul comes on, we have to talk and spend our time together with the positivity posse really quick. So I'm going to talk to you about 3 things. And like I said, it will be very, very quick. So stick with me and let's get into it. So number 1, there is, if you are in the Camden, New Jersey area or the surrounding areas, It Takes a Village is having their Diapers and Smiles diaper drive this weekend. And I will be the MC there. So if you want to come see me, or if you want to come support It Takes a Village Housing, by donating some diapers or monetary donations, whatever it is that you can, donate right now. They will be at the North Camden Community Center on October 12th, which is this Saturday from 11 to 2. And a bunch of great things are going to be going on. You have a bunch of sponsors, as you see on the flyer. Just different events. There's going to be some demonstrations. Food is going to be given away there. Please come out if you can. It's going to be a great, great time. Not only saying that because I am the MC for this time, but I think that this is their 3rd one that they're having, and each time has been bigger and better than the previous one. So please come out if you are in the area. Number 2, we have broken another milestone here on Weekly Dose of Dano TV, and here it is. We have reached over 121,000 number of viewers, and hopefully, let me say this: thank you so much to each and every one of you for being here and watching week in and week out. We really, really appreciate you every single time. But more importantly, if you are a member of the Philadelphia Phillies in that 121,000 viewers, then this episode is definitely the one for you, because it just seemed like you guys, didn't have that resilience mindset going forward. So Paul and I are going to teach you 1 or 2 things that you need in order to become very resilient, and hopefully you can take that going in the next season. But yeah, there's that. So yeah, we broke another one, and I'm super, super happy. But it's just a testament to what you can do number one, when you bet on yourself, and number two, when you have that consistency showing up week in and week out. Because a lot of people start things, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a talk show, whether it's a business, even a hobby that they want to do, right? In the beginning, they have this infatuation for it, but it's that consistency that I believe is the reason why somebody's going to become successful or not, or just kind of get lost to the wayside, or their dreams won't manifest, right? Because if you don't give it the proper time, the care, and the attention that your dreams deserve, then it's going to fizzle out. And another thing too is that if you don't have that passion to sustain that week in and week out mentality, when the bad time, well, when the challenging times do come, and I put quotes around bad, but I don't want to use that word because it's not very accurate. But when the challenging times do come, are you going to have that passion to have that consistency along the way? And most of the times, the answer is no if you're not passionate about what you do. Just make sure that you do have that passion and that consistency along the way. And then finally, one more thing that I want to share with you guys. Next month, Paul and I are going to be in the book. The book is in a new book that's going to be releasing on Amazon. Here's Paul's in his chapter. The book is called My Good Juju, and it's just about different tips and different things that you can do in order to achieve that lifetime of peace, of happiness, and what it takes in order to really get to that next level in life, which is, pretty similar to what we're going to be talking about here tonight. But here's my chapter as well. We have been writing, so it's releasing. Look at that on 11/11, and we're all about angel numbers and positivity. So just keep an eye out for that next month. It's going to be absolutely amazing. I know my chapter is on the value that we place in everything in our lives, right? If nothing is inherently good or bad, which is pretty funny, right? Because I just said I didn't want to use that word, good or bad, but nothing is really good or bad in this life. We place the value on everything that happens in our lives, right? If you get a flat tire, if you got denied, if you got fired from your job, if you just got out of a bad relationship, all of those things are what they are, but it's up to you to give them a positive meaning, to extract a positive outcome from that situation or that event that happened in your life. And I know that sounds a little bit, it sounds easier said than done, but once you have enough practice with it, it's just like going to the gym, right? At first, you're not going to be able to bench, that 200 pounds, but over time, and when you're constantly working on it, it becomes easier and easier to do. And it can happen in all the biggest and smallest events that happen in our lives. And even those, we put the meaning on biggest and smallest, right? So it just goes deeper and deeper. But once we are conscious of that we imbue the positive or negative meanings in everything that happens in our lives, then that is just taking us one step closer to understand that we are the captains of our lives, and we don't have to let these outer experiences determine who we are and how resilient we are. So that's it, everybody. Those are the three things that I wanted to cover for you guys. I just wanted to share a few comments that we have. We have hashtag positivity posse. Thank you, Luke, for dropping that. Thank you, Jeanette, for dropping the hashtag positivity posse as well. Thank you, nice sweater. I know it's a new piece that I got, so thank you so much for commenting that. And I knew Paul was going to come on today, so I couldn't let him outdo me with the with the black shirt. So I love it though, and thank you for dropping that as well. And then finally, we have here Mayor Vic Karstoff and talks about the 3 C's, which are commitment, consistency, and caring. With those 3, you can't go wrong. And then we have the man right here, Mr. Mark Hoberman, getting ready for another great show. Well, buckle in because it's time to bring Paul onto the show to talk about his story, his journey, and all of his life lessons that he is willing to share with you here on Weekly Dose of Dano TV. So if you're watching this live or on the replay, share, like, do whatever you have to do to keep your vibrations high, because it's time to welcome Mr. Paul Grima onto the show. Everybody, put some likes, put some hearts, do whatever you have to do. It's time to welcome Paul onto the show. Paul, how are you doing today?
Never better. Doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today and to share your life story, because your story is something that could easily have gone in the wrong direction, right? I know plenty of people that may have had similar experiences to what you've experienced, but you actually decided to take life by your own hands and to be the captain of your ship, so to speak, to really point the direction of everything that happens into your lives. And one of those things, and one of the keys that you shared with me that I want you to share with the Positivity Posse is the four pillars that your father taught you. So I think that's a great place to start. Can you let us in and give us some knowledge on those four pillars that you live life by?
Yeah, my father. My father was a very artistic. He was a professional opera singer. He was a great athlete. Very spiritual, very intellectual, and those really became my four pillars. And what he taught me was intellectual development, spiritual journey, artistic expression, and physical athletic pursuits. So intellectual development obviously speaks for itself. I mean, I consider myself very highly educated. I passed that on to my sons, who are in their late 20s. My youngest is an officer with the Navy. He's graduating this month from Cambridge in England with a master's. He's applying to, Ivy League type MBA schools. My other son went to Notre Dame. Both great athletes. So just continuing the legacy my father had taught me. I was an only child. I was very, very close to my dad. And my dad was very spiritual. I mean, like one time I'll never forget, I was like 16 years old and he's talking about reincarnation. He was born in Malta, which is the most Roman Catholic country in the world. There's the most Catholic churches per capita in the world. And he just had such an open mind for a time where people really didn't have an open mind. And obviously with everything going on now, it's even worse. But one day he's talking about reincarnation and past life and all this. And I'm like, Dad, you're a Hindu. and he goes, maybe I am. He just didn't care. He didn't want to be labeled and just have a title. He was just free to think, the way he wanted to think. And he passed that on to me. I mean, I went, as you had stated, I went through some real struggles in my life, mental and physical. And it was through like studying self-help books, religions such as Buddhism, Taoism, along with my Catholic upbringing, that really pulled me out. So I got so immersed, in my mid 30s, I got so entrenched, like all these things were happening. And I remember saying to myself, I have to pray harder to God. I have to be a better Catholic. So I was going to church constantly. I was praying constantly. I wouldn't go to sleep without saying all these prayers. And I got to a point where I was obsessed. And it was through these self-help books where and I'm going to tell you which books they are, but I was able to actually let go and just become a spiritual person, not necessarily a Christian, a Catholic. I mean, that's my foundation. But I could easily be Jewish. My wife is Jewish. I don't care who you are, just be a good person, so to speak.
Yeah.
But there were three books. I mean, and I can get back to the pillars. I know I'm veering off. But the first book I read, which really set me on my journey, was The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And it was simple. It was just a simple book, and it was the four agreements were always, and it's hard for me to remember sometimes, be impeccable with your word. Basically, don't gossip about yourself or others. Always do your best, and understand that your best every day may be different. Don't make assumptions, which could mean, it could mean anything, but
Yeah.
but don't make assumptions like, if someone's in a bad mood, don't assume the reason. Or if someone's struggling, or someone, let's say one of your friends doesn't want to go out tonight, don't assume that they don't like you. Maybe they're going through a personal struggle. And then the last one is don't take anything personal. So you imagine if someone reacts to you with anger, you just have to imagine that they're looking in a mirror, and the way they're treating you is a reflection of how they feel about themselves. So that was the first book.
Yeah, well, I just want to touch on that too, because here on Weekly DoseOfDano TV, I love that book, and I think that is the #1 book that has helped me as well. And I know our Positivity Posse knows about that book because we talk about it week in and week out. With those 4 things, Paul, like you said, it's only like 80 pages or 82 pages, but it's an easy read, but one of the hardest things to implement into your life, because like you said, it may seem so simple, but you can gloss over those teachings, especially if you, like, let's just say you read it on Monday and Tuesday you want to implement it. Well, Tuesday morning, I can guarantee you there's probably about 10 things that you've done before noon that you're like, oh, well, I forgot to do this. I forgot to do this. So we love that book here on Weekly Dose of Dano TV. Jeanette says here as well, she says it's one of her favorite books. But here it is, like you said, to recap Paul's words: be impeccable with your words, do your best. Don't make assumptions, and don't take anything personally.
And on a personal level, I think each of us has one agreement that we really need to focus on. Like, I have a friend group, and it's very easy to gossip about certain people in the friend group. But if you say to yourself, I'm going to be impeccable with my word, the gossip and the negativity ends with you. So that
Sure.
probably is my agreement that really speaks to me the most. But some people may have 4, 2, but if you follow those 4, that's a good start on your spiritual journey. I mean, the next book, which really, like I said, I started getting very obsessed with praying and going to church. I mean, I was with my family. We drove across country from Arizona. It's Sunday morning. We're going through Texas. I had to find a church, a Catholic church. And I dragged my family to go to church. Which, on the outside looking in, it doesn't sound like such a bad thing, but it was obsessive. So I was in Barnes and Noble. I'll never forget. And I'm looking in the spiritual section. And I don't know if it was the universe or divine intervention, but someone pointed this book to me. I didn't even know them. They just said, have you ever read this book? And it was Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. And the book, basically the author states that he had questions for God, and God came to him in his mind and answered them. And in the book, God's not portrayed as someone, standing on the clouds with a long, gray beard. God is just a source, so to speak. And it allowed me to let go of the dogma of being, super religious.
Yeah. And then the third book, Paul?
The third book was Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman. Incredible book. I actually got to a point where I started going to his seminars, and then he started inviting me to his coffee clutches. But there's a lot of, the main teaching, if I'm going to, give you the summary, is the time, his phrase, the time is now, the place is here. What does that mean? So he had an older mentor with him, trying to teach him. He was in college. It's basically a autobiographical, but he said he added some fictional elements to it to make the book interesting. But the time is now, the place is here. He would get all stressed about something, and his mentor's name was Socrates. He named him Socrates, actually, and would look at him, and he would say, Dan, what time is it? And he's like, now. The time is now. Where are we? We are here. So it's basically teaching him how to live in the moment, which was very important for me, because
I
I was
love
always,
that.
my head would spin when I think, a lot of people suffer with, waking up in the middle of the night, your head is spinning, you can't fall back asleep, or having trouble falling asleep. But, that
Yeah.
was one of the tricks of the trade for me.
And Paul, I'm so happy that you shared those books, because I feel like those things, especially books or audio books, are what we need now more than ever. Because if you can have a lifetime of wisdom condensed into 200 pages, why would you not read that? And speaking of books, we are going to talk a little bit more to the Positivity Posse about our book that's coming out next month in our chapters. But until then, we have to hear a word from our first sponsor. And after we come back, we're going to dive deep into your life, Paul, and some of the things that you had to overcome that I want the Positivity Posse to hear. So don't go anywhere. Like, share, do whatever you have to do to raise your vibrations. And we'll be right back with the word from our first sponsor.
Takes a village about keeping our families together.
God bless this organization.
That was our first sponsor. Again, it Takes a Village Housing, having a great event this weekend. Please be there if you are in the Canton area or in the surrounding areas as well. Paul, we have to dive into your story, and I'm going to ask you a question, but there was one instance for this question that you shared with me that I want you kind of be open about, and sharing with everybody. So here it is. Here's your question. So how has facing the consequences of karma kind of helped you live more mindfully throughout your life, especially in this stage?
Well, I have to tell you, I'm divorced twice. I dealt with the ex-family that were basically trying to cancel me and my son's lives. And I dealt with it with silence and indifference. So when all the drama would come out and the negative fighting back and forth, I made a purposeful decision to not fight back, to just be silent and indifferent. And my oldest son just got married recently in August, and everyone around me was, their lives are full of drama. And I'm, happily married for the third time, but really happy. And I looked, I didn't know how karma was serving me at the time when everything was going on, but I was confident enough, the way I was reacting to the drama and trauma. I was confident that it was unbelievable to see, basically 15 years later, all of a sudden, to me, karma is almost like, I call karma Saint Karma. I really do. And there's been times where, I've had to deal with the consequences of it, and this is, but I really believe, eventually, if, you put your mind right, and you quiet your mind, and to me, not continuing the drama and the fighting and the arguing and just silencing it. Like I remember my aunt had said to me, Paul, you have to defend yourself. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. But people that know me, you know, they're gonna believe in me, and the people that want to believe in, you know, the negativity, they're just going to believe it. And to be honest with you, you know, all the people from that time period, we're all close and loving now. So
Yeah.
it's
And
amazing.
you know, I love the fact that you said that you need to quiet your mind. And a similar experience actually happened to me this week. There was something that was said that I got triggered. And when I tell you I haven't gotten triggered, it's been like a very, very, very long time. But what happens is I had a mentor that I had to call, and he kind of said the same thing that you said. He goes, "Okay, everybody has all of these opinions about you, and if there's, you know, let's just take 100 people in a room. Every single person in that room is going to have a different perspective of you. So why are you going to try to go to every single person and try to defend yourself and try to prove your points? Number one, you're going to go crazy if you try to do that. But number two, we are beyond, we are beings, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. So the person that you call Paul and the person that I call Dano, these are just the representations of this you know, physical experience, but we're beyond this. So it's like you said, Paul, when it comes to, you know, you got to defend yourself, or this person disrespected me, all of that stuff kind of goes to the wayside when you, number one, put your ego at bay, but number two, understand that, you know, that stuff's not that serious anyway, and we are beyond that. We're all powerful beings. So, Paul, if there's somebody that's in that, you know, negative space right now, and they're facing, you know, they're on the wrong side of karma and they're struggling, what advice would you have to give for them if they're struggling through that bad karma?
I mean, you really have to look at yourself, because, you know, struggles were so self-imposed too by myself. So I knew I had to really do, you know, an inventory of my life. Like, you know, the drama and everything else, it wasn't just one-sided. It was, you know, it was caused by me as well. So for me to say, oh, I was perfect, that's not right. I mean, both sides were wrong, but I ended it by cutting it short, by not arguing back and forth. And you know, I think now when my sons look at me, you know, they see things differently a little bit now than they did previously. My advice is you really have to do an inventory of your life, and how you could improve. You know, kind of like the 4 agreements. If you follow the 4 agreements, you know, if you're impeccable with your word, if that's kind of like being silent and not gossiping and continuing the drama. You know, I have mantras that I say to myself when my mind isn't right, and I'll even say, Paul, is this your demons right now, or is this real? And, you know, and I'll remind myself that 95% of the things that I worry about happening never happen. And the other 5% isn't as bad as I think it's going to be. You know, there's so many things I do. I mean, I listen to music. You know, there's certain songs that I just, you know, I love Tool. I listen to this one song, Lateralis, and I just listen to it on repeat. And, you know, the repetitive sound and music, it just brings me back, you know, to a different state.
Yeah, and a lot of people think that meditation can only be, you know, hum or whatever song you got to say. It's like you said, you can listen to that, you know, one song that gets you in that right state of mind. Or if some people were into this, I know qigong is a big thing. I'm not into it, but that's the power of moving and being in that meditative state, not just kind of silencing your mind. But there's so many ways to do it, and I love just putting in my headphones and listening to, you know, a transcendental meditation or guided meditation, but just get started on it. And Paul, a lot of times in the beginning, when you're first starting to try something, you know, if you're not strong or you're not comfortable and confident on how to continue going forward, then you can just kind of throw that all away. So with you in the beginning, how did you kind of develop or establish that routine for you to just keep going with those new practices and those new techniques that you've learned?
You really need a why. You need a why. and my why was my sons. You know, I just wanted to be the best father that I could be to them. And, you know, and just, you know, my dad was a very strong father figure to me. And listen, I could sit here for 4 hours and go through all of his struggles. We've all had struggles. My struggles aren't any more challenging than your struggles or someone else's struggles. And it all pertains to how you perceive your struggles. You know, Viktor Frankl wrote, you know, he was the Holocaust survivor. And if you read his, you know, The Meaning of Life was his book. I mean, if you read his book, you know, he basically said, you know, he just imagined getting out of the you know, the prison camp and being with his wife again. That was his why. And that's how he was able to stay positive. My why was, I mean, you know, I'm not 40 years old or 30 years old. I'm an older guy now, but I still have the same goals, and I still want to be the best that I can be every day. You know, like I want to be a better Paul tomorrow than I was today, or, you know, I want to be better today than I was yesterday. And that's really what keeps me going.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you said that too, about the age thing, because a lot of people think, unfortunately, and this is what, in my opinion, the wrong way to think, that they're too old to kind of change what they've been programmed to think. And I know for you, like you said, you're just always in that state of learning and living life from a student's perspective versus trying to teach others, even though you can, because you do have the experience and the wisdom. But a lot of people kind of take those, I can't do this because of this reason, or they have that victim mentality to say, oh, well, the establishment or this person's this way and they had a handout, or whatever of the limitless you know, excuses that somebody can come up with. But what is it about this personal development that you love, that you kind of take an excuse and you don't act on it, or you don't let that limit you in life? What is it about that?
I mean, I read a lot of Bruce Lee, and one of his sayings always kept me going too. It was, the day you stop becoming, you start dying. I was in the fitness industry for 20 years, and then I wasn't happy, and I've gone from career change to career change to career change and been successful in every one. And people will say to me, I can't believe this is like, you know, I'm in the art shipping industry now, and it's not a challenge to me, because to me, people are people. But it's a belief in myself. I've done so many different, you know, in the last 7-8 years, I've made so many career changes, you know, and I wasn't a kid, but I just believed in myself. And I, you know, even listening to family say, oh, you know, you're changing again, and, you know, it's not good. And I, you know, my answer is, well, why am I going to stay somewhere if I'm not happy or I'm not challenged enough? So it's just belief in myself, you know, and I look at each career change as a lifetime, you know. Like I back in the day, I was a young guy, and I was talking to an older coworker, and he said, oh, in this life I was this, in that life I was that. And that always stuck with me, that it's okay. I mean, you know what, next year I could be doing something totally different, but I know whatever it is, I'm going to be successful. You know, and I have another saying. I mean, I have a million sayings, but, you know, in Raging Bull, Jake LaMotta was getting destroyed by Sugar Ray Robinson, and the fight was ended. And he walked by Sugar Ray Robinson. And he said, "Hey, Ray," I think he fought him 4 times and lost 3 of them. And he said, "Ray, you never knocked me down. You never knocked me down." And that's always in the back of my mind. No matter what, you're not going to knock me down. I'm going to keep going and keep pushing. Nothing's going to beat me.
I love that. So thank you so much for sharing those as well. And if you are the person that loves the sayings, then you want to stick around for the rest of the episode, because Paul is just chock full of them. And all of them are always to bet on ourselves, and to increase the confidence of everything that happens in our lives as well. And as I mentioned before, we are each have a chapter in the book that's releasing on 11/11. called My Juju, or My Positive, or My Good Juju. And it's about tips and strategies in order to achieve that peace, in order to really live that life that we all know and that we all just yearn for, right? That life of peace, happiness, joy, and purpose. You're going to be able to find all of our ideas in there. And we're going to talk about, after we hear a word from our second sponsor, which is Great Success, we're going to hear what Paul's chapter is all about and why he chose his chapter that he wrote about. So everybody, don't go anywhere. Remember, like, share, do whatever you have to do to keep your vibrations high, because you never know if you do like and share who you might be serving or inspiring, whether they let you know about the inspiration or not. It's not up to them to tell you. It's about you always doing the right thing no matter what. And as of right now, that is the best way that I can think that you can serve everybody. So like, share, and we'll be right back after a word from Great Success.
At Great Success, it's our job to make sure that your child succeeds in school regardless of the subject or grade level. Our tutors are trained professionals who know how to promote learning and encourage results. Whether you are looking for help with SAT, ACT prep, private and group tutoring, K through 3 reading programs for your child, or educational consulting and college counseling, here at Great Success, we can help you find the right answer. Visit greatsuccess.com to learn more about our in-person and online program options. Great Success, where your child's success is our business.
What we do is very interactive, but very, very powerful because, look, yeah, I was an educator for 30 years. I don't believe in just academic education. The lack of character education, which is what we do, changes a culture, and it doesn't take 3 months or 3 years to do it.
We are the guys that come in that will teach these kids everything that they need in order to really be the best version of themselves and to get the skills to succeed in life no matter what life throws at them. A word from Great Success. Thank you so much for sponsoring Weekly DoseOfDano TV and to make all of this great content possible. If you have a child out there that needs help with SAT, ACT prep, or maybe just overall study skills and school skills, please reach out to Great Success as well. And you also saw the Power of Choices that is still going on strong. So thank you to the Power of Choices, which is me and Mark Overman as well, to sponsoring Weekly DoseOfDano TV. So, Paul, time to get back to it. And as I showed everybody in the beginning, there's a great graphic here that I need you to explain a little bit about. So we're going to be in that book, My Good Juju. So tell us what your chapter is about and why you chose to write about your chapter.
So my chapter is about my relationship with my dad. He passed away in 2009. And so my relationship still continues to this day. He's gone for 15 years. And I don't know how much I should give away about the chapter, but basically, I was an only child. I was very close to my dad, and he was my best friend. I spoke to him every day. I went to Europe for 5 weeks, still figured out how to call him and speak to him every day. So that chapter is about, how we can still have a relationship with our lost loved ones. We just have to keep a real open mind to the signals. I relate to one story. It was a few weeks after my father passed. He had taken my bedroom and converted it to an office, and it was time I had to start cleaning stuff out. My dad was meticulous with saving records, and when he passed, I knew exactly what to do second by second. the funeral home, you know, his wishes, he wanted to be cremated, everything, every detail, phone numbers, who to call, friends to call, family to call, you know, the insurance policy that was going to pay for his wake, his burial, you know, and his cremation rather. So I was going through all of that stuff, and he had a briefcase, and briefcase was very connecting to me and my dad, because when I was a little boy, he would take me to his office, and he bought me a little child's briefcase, and I would always carry it with me to work with him. But I was looking at his briefcase. I couldn't open it. The lock was jammed or whatever. I'm, you know, trying to open it. I fling it. All of a sudden, it hits an ashtray. And back in the day, more people were smoking, and they would smoke. You know, and if you had company, you assumed they were going to be smoking. And everyone had like a beautiful crystal ashtray, and this was it. He had it, you know, put away. I smack the ashtray, crashes to the ground. I'm looking at the glass all over the floor. I take a step. Sure enough, I cut my foot on the glass. My foot's bleeding. I'm looking everywhere for a Band-Aid, can't find one. Finally, I just say the hell with it. I take a paper towel, I wrap it, and I continue. I go to the briefcase. It opens immediately. And what flies out of the briefcase? A Band-Aid.
Wow.
So that was the first message I got. And I still have the Band-Aid, you know. I have like a special place for my dad's memories, like pictures of my dad with my sons, with me, all that kind of, like, not to sound, you know, too spiritual about it, but it's an altar that I built for my dad, and it's for other lost loved ones that are important to me. It makes me, you know, I look at the altar, and it makes me remember them, and, you know, I read, you know, whatever personal items I have of them, and it brings back memories, you know, because, you know, lost loved ones don't have to fade away if you keep their memories in your heart. So that was the first.
I agree with that too. And for some reason, I know this is going to sound a little weird, but I promise it just happened. When you're telling that story, I don't know, I guess if my body was reacting, but I felt like a little sharp pain in my foot. It was right on the inside, right where the arch is.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah.
That's where it was.
That is very interesting.
Left foot, my left foot.
So there you go. If Paul's dad is listening, thank you for being here with us right now. And that was very interesting. And I usually just like ignore certain things. I'm like, but that was just so out there that I wanted to share that with you as well. So very interesting. But Paul, you know, those things happen to us all the time. And it's like you said, whether we're taught by society to kind of shut those things out that happen in our lives, that we start to tune them out that way, or like you said, the religious beliefs, we start to shut things out that way. But I firmly believe everything that you said, or I agree with you rather, that we are connected to those beings out there, and they talk to us in so many different ways. It's just about being aware of those things that happen. Was it, by the way, it was my right foot. Was it your right foot?
No, it was my left. Yeah.
Okay, so then, all right, then I guess I don't know if that's a correlation or not. But anyway, it's really, really great to be open-minded. So, Paul, if there's somebody out there that is watching this and they don't really know what being open-minded means or what it takes, what's your definition of being open-minded?
So I read another book I read that really got me to focus on connecting with my dad was Laura Lynn Jackson wrote a book called Signs, and she talks about connecting with lost loved ones. So I got to the point where I actually would ask my dad for messages. So I'll give you a couple examples. So on my dad's 10-year anniversary of his death, I was working on a Saturday, and I never worked on a Saturday, but just it was a special occasion. And I asked my dad for a message. So that's the main thing. You have to ask. And you can get, you know, my next story will show a little bit more what to do when you ask. But I just asked my dad for a message. Let me know you're here. Let me know you're with me. The day ends. I get in my car. I start to drive, put on my music. All of a sudden, Led Zeppelin's 10 Years Gone comes on. And I was on the date of it, it was just the 10-year anniversary of his passing. I vaguely know that Led Zeppelin song. I love Zeppelin, but, I know, certain songs like Stairway to Heaven, Black Dog, all that stuff. Thank You. But 10 Years Gone, I would never think to play it. I don't have it, it listed in my iTunes, nothing. And it just came on Sirius. So that was one message. Then, like I was saying before, from the book, I started asking my dad for things, for signs, but the title of the book.
Yeah. So I gotta ask you this: so is that what it's about? Like, why is it that you chose that? Like, is the topic about how to ask for signs?
Well, she talks about, she gives examples, and she's Laura.
Oh no, sorry, I meant your book inside of the book that's going to be released next month, My Good Juju.
It gives examples. It gives examples of how my dad connected with me, and that it's titled "I Will Always Be With You. They Are Always With You."
So why did you decide to write about that specifically? Like, you could have talked about personal development, which you know a lot about, or how to turn your struggles into strengths. But why do you specifically write about that chapter?
Grief is very debilitating. And I went through a period of grief when I lost my dad. Until you lose a parent or a really close loved one, you can't. I felt like it was stunting my development as an older man, and I didn't think my dad wanted to see that in me. And when I read that book, it kind of let me go. And now when I walk, I feel like my dad is my protector, and I feel empowered. When I walk out the door, I don't worry about anything. I really don't. Like, if there's a hurricane, I know all the stuff in Florida that was going on, but I'm saying, not to make light of that, but anything that's challenging in life, I'm fearless. I really am. I mean, that's how I live my life. And that's why I wrote that in here, because I have a lot of close friends. I have one close friend who lost her mother and father within 2 years. One was due to COVID, the other was cancer, and it's a family, and they're so paralyzed right now by it. And how can anything else matter if you can't get past that? How can you self-develop? And how could you be a parent to your children? How can you be a grandparent to your grandchildren if you can't get past that grief?
Yeah, and I know a big portion of how you moved through your grief as well was through the power of humor. And humor is such a great way and such a great aspect to life, right? Because imagine going through life without laughing, and the beauty of the grief as well is to experience what laughter and happiness truly really is, right? Because let's take it to a simplified version. How are you supposed to experience clean if you don't experience dirty? How are you supposed to experience left if you don't experience right? And it's the same thing with these moments that happen in our lives. It's teaching us and showing us what that true laughter and peace and happiness is. And that's a big part of our memories that we've had with our loved ones or while we're going through life, right? And like I said, when it comes to humor, you have developed that into your kind of grieving process, or just really taking life to that positive direction and driving it in that way. So how did you use I wouldn't know how to do it. Like, I do make jokes at times, and especially during the times where you're not supposed to make a joke or it's not appropriate, that's when I'll start laughing, especially in a very serious moment. There's things like that. Grief is so important. So how did you use grief to help you overcome your challenges in your life?
A lot of times I would make fun of myself, or, make light of life's challenges or whatever. Sarcasm always worked for me. never being mean. I would never, dark humor is not my thing, to be honest with you. But like me and my wife, we have this ritual. Like before we go to bed, we watch on our phones like Seinfeld skits, or if we have like a funny meme or whatever, she'll send it to me, I'll send it to her. I have honestly, I have a very strong marriage because we can joke with each other and no one gets offended. You know what I mean? No, we're never mean, but we just laugh all the time. And that in itself, making someone laugh, is healing for me. I don't know how to teach someone how to be a comedian, but you don't have to be funny if you show someone a funny Seinfeld meme or a funny, 2.5 Men skit. Or Sebastian Maniscalco is one of my favorite comedians, and they're always posting videos of him doing a bit, and me and my wife will watch it, or I'll send it to my friends, and my friends will call me, or when next time they see me, they're like, "Oh my God, I was in such a bad mood, and that made me die laughing. It put me in a good mood."
Yeah,
kind of like a release.
Yeah, seriously, because if you don't have that laughter in your life, then everything can start to get so serious and down. And especially like you said, Paul, there's so many different things that happen on social media and that pop up that even if you don't interact with it, but you watch the whole video all the way through, they're just gonna start to serve you more and more of that. So just be conscious of that. That number one, we do need to be conscious of what we're digesting on social media and just out there in the world. But number two, it's not all serious and it's not all, life or death, right? There is moments that happen in our lives, whether they're far and few between or whether they happen every single day. They always are happening, but it's up to us to acknowledge it, how often that it is happening. And I know for me as well, I really love, Billy Madison, or sorry, I mean, Billy Madison was his movie, but Adam Sandler movies. And just talking with my friends about some of the scenes that we saw, or just like you said, finding the humor and everything. And I know I do like a little bit of dark humor here and there, but hey, whatever that you need to do in order to have that load lifted off your shoulders, so to speak. And like you said, humor is a great way to do that. And as we know, meditation and journaling is a great way to do that. So, Paul, we only have a few minutes left here on Weekly DoseOfDano TV, but we always wrap up the show in the same exact way. And here it is.
Uh-oh.
If there's somebody that's watching right now that is having a hard time trying to get out of that dark place that they're in, what advice would you have for them in order to pull themselves out of it?
You have to treat your whatever it is, your depression, like a course in school. So, if you're taking like calculus, you have to treat your depression like calculus. And that's what I did. That's what worked for me. And that's when I started doing, reading all the self-help books. And, I got into Buddhism. You have to pull yourself out of it. But at some point, the subject is self-help. So you can get caught up in a spiral where you're constantly reading self-help books and saying to yourself, let me take this person's advice. What I did was I read these books, stopped, and created my own philosophy and my own journey, so to speak, and my way of life. And, being a leader, like, we've talked about it. I had a lot of young adults that I was leading, and I think I had a very positive influence, enlightening them to my beliefs. I mean, in the last week, I had a guy I haven't spoken to, in 20 years. He was like in his early 20s when he worked for me, and he just reached out to me. I don't even know how he got my number. He just remembered me. And, like 4 other former employees that worked under me, just I haven't spoken to in 10 years, 8 years, 6 years. But the imprint I left on them was important enough for them to want to know how I was doing. So, I don't know if it's because of the lessons I expounded to them, or the laughter. I always make everybody laugh. I think I've made you laugh a few times. They just remember me with in a positive light. I mean, I had a guy, I'll never forget, a manager that was under me. I had to terminate him, and I never liked to terminate anybody, but it was for performance. And he came up to me and hugged me and said, "Thank you for the opportunity." And 5 years later, he asked me for a reference, and I gave him one.
Yeah. Well, I thank you for sharing that too. So as a recap, everybody, if you are out there watching and you are in that, dark, place, just like Paul said, study. Happiness and peace, you can learn it. It's just as easy as learning how to ride a bike or how to, build a house. And I don't want to say, easy in that sense, but you will start to learn the techniques and be on that path in order to pull yourself out of that negative space. And then number two, as Paul just mentioned too, and I have been reminded of it this week, is to always have positive mentors that are there for you, not with any strings attached. That is so easy to kind of get lost into, because if somebody is truly your friend, but they want certain things out of you and they expect certain things from you on how they can gain advantages out of you, then it's not really a true friendship. So I know that's one of the things that I've been very cognizant of is who's in my life for me, especially mentors that really want to just see me be the best version that I am, and we don't ask anything out of each other. It's important to have those mentors. So Paul, I agree with you 100%. You can learn how to be happy and on that path to peace. And then number two, keeping the right mentors around you. So Paul, somebody wanted to reach out to you to learn more about your story or to ask you some questions. Where can they find you?
Probably my email, pauliesoccer@gmail.com, PAULYSOCCER@gmail.com. I was a soccer coach, kids soccer coach, for many, many years. I trained soccer teams. So I've always kept that email. It means a lot to me. And every time I spell it out, I always, you're smiling right now, just listening to it. It makes people smile, and, they kind of get a little insight into, what I'm about, so to speak.
Yeah.
But be glad to talk to anyone. Listen, the Dan Millman, when I was at a coffee thing with him, someone asked him, is there God? And he said, I don't know. Is there? So I don't know and that always resonated with me. He's a man. So I don't have the answers for everybody. I had the answers that worked for me, but I could maybe point you and point someone in many different directions that could help them.
Yeah, for sure. Well, make sure that you refer them to our episode and everything that we talk about here on Weekly Dose of Dano TV, because all of this content is here to serve you and to serve us to really hear about the insights of our guest story, my story, and potentially your story, the Positivity Posse. All you have to do is comment and we can show it on the screen. Like Lou says here, because Lou has dropped so many golden nuggets on the commenter side. Jeanette has dropped so many golden nuggets as a commenter as well. So make sure that you are taking advantage of the commenting feature so we can hear about your perspectives as a member of the Positivity Posse as well. Jeanette says, Dano, great show. Thank you for that. And great episode from Lou as well. One more thing, laughter is so important. It makes us not take ourselves so serious. Breathe free and last. And I'm sorry, this is the last thing. Great show as usual. Thank you for your golden nuggets, Paul, and continued success in your life. Everybody, be safe this weekend. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Paul, thank you for coming on and being so open and honest to share your golden nuggets with the Positivity Posse. And finally, as one more reminder, if you are in the Camden area or the surrounding areas, please be sure to come out to the Diapers and Smiles on October 12th from 11 to 2 at the North Camden Community Center to learn more and to receive resources about diapers and car seats and many other exciting giveaways on that day as well. And I will be your MC. So if you want to come and say hello, I will be there. So everybody, thank you so much for being here on this great episode. And we'll see you next week for another episode of Weekly Dose of Dano TV. Peace, everybody. Have a great weekend. Thank you again, Paul. We appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Here it is.